This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com.
Let's talk about some of the questions we got on Twitter. We took to Twitter and said, hey, if you guys have a question for this show, by all means ask us. And you can ask a question to Arn next week. Just go follow us right now at The Arn Show. David Myers writes in, do you think The Office was completely caught off guard with the huge backlash against Roman Reigns? Had Arn, any agents, or anyone else warned them about the possibility?
Well, yeah, we talked about it all the time. I mean, some guys can go out and handle a 6-minute promo, and by and large, most other people, and I'm saying most, can't. And if it was something that was scripted beforehand that I had to memorize, like cramming for a test, and go out and pretty much do it word for word, I don't know that in a day's time I could do that. And I considered myself a pretty fair hand at one time on promos. But they put that burden on a guy that didn't need to be attempting it, and that's Roman, along with a lot of other guys. You know, Roman is the kind of guy you look at him and you go, holy shit, I don't know who that is, but that's somebody. And if he gives you 1 or 2 or 3 very convincing lines, that's about all he needs to do. He don't need to do a lot of talking. And I think Roman, who is a heel, and I think his benefit to the industry is a red hot heel without doing a lot of talking. That's where he should have been, and the boss was determined to make him the lead babyface that was going to be drawing all the money and selling all the merch, and no matter what. And so, even though there were a lot of nights we would tell him, hey, he's winning over some of the kids, but the adults don't like him. There was a reason the adult males didn't like Roman. Because when he came out, they looked at their girlfriend and her jaw was on the floor and her eyes were popped out of her head, and it was immediate heat. They were going gaga over this guy. I mean, he's a handsome guy. He looks like a friggin' movie star. And there was some booing going on, but it was just one of those things that when you get pushed as hard as a guy gets pushed, and it's not his fault, but Roman was pushed pretty hard. The audience sniffs that out and they go, he hasn't earned it. He hasn't been around as long. He didn't do the 10 years on the indie circuit like Daniel Bryan. And they start sorting through who's earned what. And once they establish in their minds that a guy has not earned the push he's getting, they turn on him. And I think that's what happened.
It's fascinating to me that, that's so obvious to the fans. I mean, that is the situation. I think most fans think, oh, he was given everything and he didn't have to work as hard. And he just wasn't their underdog that they wanted. And when they didn't get it 2 years in a row, because that's what they wanted Brian in 14. They wanted him again in 15. He got it neither time. He's done a great disservice with the fan base. And I don't know that, do you think Roman Reigns will ever shake loose of the hate? I mean, we've never really talked about this, you and I, but John Cena dealt with more of this than anybody. He never did anything wrong. He was always the baby face, and fans just decided, hey, we don't like the guy. And it feels like they're doing it now with Roman Reigns and have for several years.
Yeah. And it's just so unfair. I went around and watched Roman wrestling Braun Strowman, a heel Braun Strowman, a monster Braun Strowman, in house shows, probably for, I don't know, but I was so fortunate to have all those house show loops. I want to say it was probably 6 or 8 weeks in different markets and different areas of the country. And Roman for 25 minutes would go out there and get his ass handed to him by Braun Strowman. He created and did the best job of anybody I've seen at creating that monster, Braun Strowman. And I mean, he just kept fighting for his life and got his ass handed to him. And the kids were screaming for Roman. And at the end, the adults were screaming for Roman because he was in this underdog scenario where he was fighting for his life against insurmountable odds. And Braun, who's a pretty quick study, had his act together, you know, on his end of being the monster. And he just kept shutting Roman down and shutting him down and shutting him down. I think it's so unfair. Anybody that doesn't think he's earned his position needs to watch this and watch some of those matches because he earned it that night alone. I just think people have wanted him in a different role. And, you know, again, I think the Shield guys have been flip-flopped so much, it's wishy-washy. You know, who really are those guys? You can't trust them. You never know, you know, they're liable to kill each other or anybody else. I mean, there's how many switches back and forth between heel and babyface. The audience, if they don't really know what you're about, if they can't trust anything that you say or do for fear of next week that they're going to completely change their point of view, the talent, then, you know, if they don't know what they got, it's hard to get over under those situations. And I think that's been a part of it as well.
Do you think they missed the boat by, you know, when they see the reaction that Lesnar's getting and Heyman's getting, and they see just the natural reaction the audience has to Roman Reigns? Did they miss the boat by not embracing that and just letting Roman go on as a heel from here on?
What do you got to lose?
Right.
You know, there's all those rules. You can just take Lesnar, and I know he's special, and he is. But there's always that, and I've even, you know, said this before, I'm not saying that it was my feelings, but just letting you know it exists. One of the rules is if a guy couldn't talk, you could never use him as your top guy. That was like a cardinal rule of the business. If a guy couldn't talk, he could use him so high up the card. He was never going to be the guy that got him in the building. He had to be able to talk. Lesnar don't talk. Lesnar has never been a babyface. He's never been anything other than exactly what he is. Now, he got cheered a lot of nights when he was in the ring with Ambrose, who was the babyface, Cena, who was the babyface. Randy Orton would have even been the babyface, I would think, you know, in all these matches. And they still cheer for Lesnar. Doesn't mean he's a babyface. They just respect that when he comes through the curtain, you know what you got. There's nothing is going to change from what you've seen over the last however many years. He's a killing machine, and that's what you're going to get, and that's what you expect, and that's what you pay for.
Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any future clips that we upload. We hope we made you laugh, and we hope we can save you some money right now at SaveWithConrad.com.